Okay, good morning. Good morning. Hello. Hello again. So let's use this illustrative problem to understand more the basics of the shareholders equity. Okay. Rainham Corporation provided the following information on shareholders equity on December 31, 2012. Okay, ordinary shares with a total of 500,000 shares authorized with a par value of 5 pesos. Out of that 500,000 shares that has been authorized or that is authorized, 300,000 of which is issued and outstanding, amounting to 1.5 million pesos. So to check it, 300,000 shares times 5 pesos par value is equal to 1.5 million peso. Okay? The share premium for the ordinary shares is or amounted to 2.5 million pesos. So we could assume that the 2.5 million came from the total shares issued. So we could assume that the 2.5 million share premium is can we that uh, can be divided or should be divided by the 300,000 shares to know how much is the share premium allocated per shares outstanding. So 2.5 million pesos divided by 300. So we could assume that it is around 8.333 pesos per shares. Okay, next it would be the preference shares or the preference share capital of 100,000 shares authorized. 50,000 of which was issued and outstanding with a par value of 10 pesos. Okay, 50,000 times 10. Okay, that should have been 500,000. Therefore, the 1 million here is was used. The 1 million is computed using the 100,000 shares authorized. Different from the ordinary shares. Okay, share premium for the preference shares 1.5 million. Retained earnings 3 million. So the total is 9.5 million pesos. Could use or we should check it. Okay, 1.5 times 2.5 plus 1 million plus 1.5 plus 3 million and equates the 9.5 million here the total share capital. Okay. So the additional information, transaction for 2013, issued 50,000 shares for 15 pesos and 20,000 shares for an equipment costing 400,000 and can be sold at the market for 350. So it is um, share issuance using non-cash consideration here. We could use it here. Okay. Shares issued for non-cash consideration. Order of priority is the fair value of goods received. Next, if doesn't have fair value of the equity shares issued, or if again doesn't it wasn't given, we can use the par value. However, in this topic or in this scenario, we could use the first top or the top priority, which is the fair value of the non-cash consideration. Okay, the 400 is a book value, and the 350 is the market value, or we could assume no, we could say that it is the fair value of the asset that we are to be received for issuing the 50,000 shares and the preference shares of 20. So, okay. Okay. So the 750 here was the price of the ordinary shares, 50,000 times 15 pesos. Okay, that's the 750. Okay. Here, the 350 is the market value. Same. Okay. We knew or we can see in the top that the ordinary share capital issued was 50. Okay. 50,000 shares with a par value of 5. So 50,000 times 5 goes to 250. And the preference share capital was computed as 20,000 shares times 10 par value. Okay. The 5 here and the 10 here. Okay. Okay. So the excess of the 750 minus the 250 share capital is allocated to the share premium ordinary. In here, the consideration received or the fair value of the equipment was deducted, or the excess of the share premium capital over the equipment received was allocated to the share premium account. So you can, if you total this, total debits and total credits, it should be able to come up with the same amount. Okay, letter B, issued 50,000 shares and 5,000 shares for services rendered by outside lawyers valued 700,000. The ordinary and preference shares are selling in the market as at 8 and 20 respectively. So it's non-cash. Okay. We could assume that we should use the cost of the lawyer's services. Oh, B, legal fees. Okay, expenses. Okay, here 700,000. So this allocated for the ordinary shares of 50 times 5 share premium is the allocation later on. I will provide that. And this 50,000 is computed as 5,000 shares times the par value of 10, so 50. So if we compute it, it will yield the amount of 350. So we have an excess of 400. However, the 400 should be allocated to share premium. However, we have two share premium. It's either or both. No, we have two share premium that should share of that 400,000. So it's ordinary share and it's the preference share. Question: how could we allocate the excess of 400,000? Okay, we could use we should use a scientific method in allocating that 400,000. Total tot, total fair value received 700,000. Share capital ordinary shares and preference shares should be, this is 250,000. This is 50,000. Okay. So this is a minus. Okay. Minus. So total of 700 minus 250 minus 50, 400. So to allocate that, no, okay, could use that. We should add both. We should total the share capital, total share capital, OS and P preference share. Here that 250. This is 50,000. So it should yield the amount of 300. So the 400,000 should allocate 250 divided by 300,000. Okay, 250 divided by 300, 300 here, and we could use that 50 divided by 300 here. Okay, so using that, we could assume that 400 times 250 divided by 300 should yield here 333, and this should be yield no times 50 over 300. Oh no, no, 50 over 300. So the total would be that. Is it the way they have solved it? No, no. So we'll have try the other method. The total number of shares. Okay, we have 50,000 shares here. We have 5,000 shares here. So that should be 55. So we could use it 50,000 shares over 55 here. We could use 5,000 here over 55 total number of shares. Okay, let's try 400,000. No, 400,000 400,000 times 50 over 55, and this should be 400 times 50, 5 over 55. Answer still not the same as it is used here. So we could assume that they use the 8 and 20 here to allocate the remaining 700,000 shares. Okay, let's use that. So times 8, 3, and this is should be 10. So 50 times 3. So the total is 200. And using here, still, okay, if you use 200 times 50 over 55 or 250 over 300, 200 times 250 over 300, 166 should be 310 and 90. So, so 8 over 20, 8 over 20, 8 over 20. So 50 times 8, and this 5 times 20 here. That should be 400 to 500. So let's try 400 k 1000 over 500, or here 100 over 500. Using that, okay, times 400 divided by 500 times 100 over 500. That should have been 320 over 80. Okay, that's the closest that we could have um get. So there's no other amount that could have been that the explain that their allocation for that computation. So I think there's a mathematical correction here. It should have been 250 here, 320, 50, and 80 here. Okay, so that's the author's um, it is the way that they solve it here to allocate the remaining or the excess of the 400 or the excess of the 300,000 total of share capital ordinary and the preference share over the 700,000 legal fees that they have um that have been rendered for them by outside lawyers. Okay, moving forward. Issued 25,000 shares for 10 pesos, incurred the following costs for issue: legal fees, underwriting fees, filing fees with SEC, transfer agent fees. These fees are all have been uh, tackled in the above topics, that these are the share issuance costs. Okay, so all of this shall be included as share issuance costs that will be deducted to the share premium account. Okay, see. Okay, so we receive 250,000, 25,000 shares times 10. So here, 250, and then for the par value, 25,000 times 5, and the excess would be allocated to the share premium. And here, okay, we company paid for this, the total amount is 25,000. Okay, okay. Only the legal fees wasn't ano, deducted 5,000 legal fees. Or should have been the transferred agent fees. Okay, I think this should be the transfer agent fees. Okay, why could we review printing, stock cost, transfer book, seal, underwriting, promotional fees, accounting, legal fees to the share issuance? I think there's no transfer agent fees. Okay, I think all of this should have been. It's not typo typo error that they use the legal fees. Instead, should have been the transfer agent fees. Or they should have used for the other, or they use the legal expense as accounting title for all those fees that is not being or can't be contained in the share premium here. Next is receive 20,000 ordinary shares subscription at 10. Later on, only 50% subscription were paid. The unpaid subscription were offered at a public auction for 117,500, on which includes interest of 10,000 and advance payments on delinquency sale of 7.5. Receive the following offers: A 10,000, B 9,000, C 8,000. Okay. The highest bidder is, I think, the 8,000 here, because they are willing to pay the 117,500 for only 8,000 shares. They would just receive 8,000 shares and they will pay for the 117. So technically, this is the highest bidder, not the 10,000 here. So we can see here that the subscription 200,000. Okay, debit. Subscribe share capital 100 and share premium 100. So this the initial entry. Now they have paid the half. However, the other half was not paid. Okay, was not paid, become delinquent, and was for auction. So the total cash received was 117. However, the 10,000 of the 17,500 was for interest income, and advances delinquent sales 7.5, and only the 100,000 remaining after deducting the interest income and bus payment was used for extinguishing the subscription receivable. Okay, subscribe share capital was now completed. The subscribe share capital, since it has already been fully paid, it will be uh, close to the ordinary share capital. Okay, as you can see, the subscriptions was all been extinguished or removed after the full settlement of the full subscription receivable. Okay, E, that's the E. Reacquired 50,000 shares for 11 pesos. The shares were originally issued at 12,500. On a later date, half of the shares were reissued for 375,000. The remaining shares were retired. Okay, treasury shares 550. Okay, because 50,000 shares times 11 is 550,000, and we paid full cash. Okay, we sold half. So 300 for 375. Okay. Treasury shares issued. Treasury share, debit, credit, treasury shares, ordinary shares, 275. How did we get the 275? That's the 50% of 550, because here was on the later part, half of the shares were reissued. So 550 here times 50% or divided by 2, it's 275. So the 275 all the excess of 275 over 375 was allocated to share premium, not ordin to not share premium, not to the ordinary shares, but instead to the treasury share premium treasury shares. Okay, let's now move on to the retirement of the other half. Okay, the other half is 275,000. Okay. And we did 275. So half of the shares was 25,000. So it's if it's 25,000, 50,000 times 50%, it's 25,000 shares times it was issued at 12.5 minus the 275 par value. Okay. No. My 25,000 shares was um retired. So the par value of that is 125 here. Okay, 125. Okay, then it was issued for 1250. You can see here 1250. 1250. So in excess of uh the excess of 5 over 1250 is 750. Okay, 750. 750. So minus 5 times 25,000 shares, it is 175. Okay. So that's the total debit account. And now let's go to the credit side. The 275 was the total half of the cost the company paid to reacquire the total 50,000, in which the half of that reacquired was reissued and half is now being retired, which is the total amount 275. And we will squeeze the remaining amount of the difference of the total debits here, the total share capital and total share premium allocated to the 25,000 shares that has been retired. So the excess was 37,500 share premium of the ordinary shares. But sometimes they use the share premium of treasury shares. It's also fine. Okay, memo entry for the receipts. Okay, let's see. Received donation of 10,000 of oats of its own shares which were selling at the 20 at 20. The shares were then reissued for 10. Okay, for any donated shares don't affect the any account in the financial statement since recognition of donation requires memorandum entry only. However, it reduces number of shares outstanding. Okay, that's the only effect. Okay, no memo. No, a memo entry only for here. So there's no journal entry. Now for the received 10,000 shares, it was reissued. So it was not for the memo entry. We didn't affect the ordinary shares. Okay, the share capital we didn't. However, the reissuance affected the share premium account only. Therefore it also didn't affect the ordinary share capital. So that's the common transactions that you may come across. It's quite tricky for this part, the letter B. Okay, there's a lot of ways to allocate it. All of those methods that I have used a while ago in the Excel file is uh, could be could be accepted. Okay, so therefore you may use all of those. If if the choices in the multiple choice didn't find the first, you can go to the second until the closest one appeared, like we have did here, the 320. Why? Because sometimes we may consider that it has um erroneous question due to human error. That's all. Thank you.